The storm came without warning, a white fury that swallowed the world whole. For 3 weeks, our research station, Polaris Vi, was an island in an endless sea of snow. The wind howled a constant, mournful song against the insulated walls, a sound that seeped into your bones and chilled you deeper than the sub-zero temperatures outside. We were cut off. The comms panel was a graveyard of static, every attempt to reach the outside world swallowed by the blizzard. Days blurred into a monotonous cycle of system checks, data logging, and shared, silent meals, the 10 of us moving through the confined space like ghosts. The silence between us grew heavier with each passing day, thick with unspoken anxieties. Then, the broadcast started. It was always at 2:17 a.m. The first time it happened, I was jolted from a light, uneasy sleep by the sudden crackle of the main radio in the common area. It was an old analog set, a relic we kept mostly for nostalgia, but it sparked to life with a hiss that cut through the station's quiet hum. A voice emerged from the static. It was calm, measured, almost soothing, if it weren't for what it was saying. It started reading a list of names. Our names. Dr. Aristorne. The voice was male, with no discernible accent, clear as if he were in the room with us. Dr. Lina Petrova. The slow, deliberate cadence was unnerving. One by one, he recited the names of every single person at Polaris Vi. We all gathered in the common room, drawn from our bunks, our faces pale in the dim emergency lighting. We looked at each other, confusion warring with a primal fear. What was this? How did they have our full roster? Was it a rescue team? But if so, why this strange, nocturnal roll call? After reciting the 10th name, Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the voice paused. The static hissed for a moment, and then it spoke again. Elias Vance. My blood ran cold. That's my name. I was standing there, listening, and it felt like the voice was speaking directly to me, singling me out. The broadcast ended as abruptly as it began, plunging the room back into silence, broken only by our sharp, ragged breaths. No one slept for the rest of the night. The next day was a frantic mess of theories and checks. Arisa, our station chief, insisted it was some kind of psychological warfare test from a rival nation or a twisted prank. Lina, our engineer, spent hours trying to trace the signal, but it was impossible. It seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was a ghost signal, defying all logic. The next night, we were all waiting. At precisely 2:17 a.m., the radio crackled to life again. The same calm voice. The same list. Dr. Aris Thorne. Dr. Lina Petrova. It went through all 10 of us. I held my breath as it reached the end. A pause. Elias Vance. It was the same. A personal, terrifying sign-off meant just for me. Why me? I was the junior communications tech, the lowest on the totem pole. I had no special knowledge, no unique role. I was just me. This became our new, horrifying routine. Every night, the voice would perform its roll call, and every night, it would end with my name. The crew started looking at me differently. Suspicion began to curdle the air. Was I involved somehow? Did I know something they didn't? The camaraderie we'd built over months in isolation evaporated, replaced by wary glances and whispered conversations I wasn't part of. I felt like a pariah, haunted by a voice, only I seemed to be the target of. By the second week, the strain was breaking us. Kenji started claiming he saw figures moving in the blizzard, just at the edge of the floodlights. Lina was obsessed with the radio, taking it apart and putting it back together, finding nothing wrong. Arisa's confident demeanor was cracking, his eyes darting around constantly. The isolation wasn't just outside anymore, it was inside, between us. And the voice kept coming, night after night. Elias Vance. The words were a brand on my sanity. I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know where it was coming from. My prime suspect was the old radio tower, a skeletal steel structure about a kilometer from the station. It was decommissioned years ago, replaced by our modern satellite array. But it was the only other piece of broadcast technology for hundreds of miles. During a brief lull in the storm, I told Aris I was going to check a perimeter sensor. It was a lie. I bundled up, grabbed a toolkit, and a high-frequency detector, and slipped out into the blinding white. The trek was brutal. The wind tore at me, and the snow was so deep it felt like wading through quicksand. The tower loomed ahead, a dark needle against the gray sky. It was eerily silent out here, the station's hum gone, replaced by the wind's lonely whistle. As I got closer, the detector in my hand, which had been silent, began to chirp, faintly at first, then louder and more insistent the nearer I got to the tower's base. Something was broadcasting from here. At the base of the tower was a small, reinforced maintenance hut, half buried in a snowdrift. The door was frozen shut, but I managed to shoulder it open with a grunt, collapsing inside into the darkness. I fumbled for my headlamp, its beam cutting through the gloom. The hut was tiny, filled with rusted equipment and thick webs of dust-caked cables. And in the center of the room, on a small metal table, was a radio transmitter. It was an old military-grade piece of hardware, but it looked active. A small green light blinked rhythmically on its panel. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. This had to be the source. But who set it up? And how? No one had been out here. I leaned closer, my breath fogging in the frigid air. Next to the transmitter was a small, leather-bound journal. Its pages were brittle with age. I picked it up carefully. The handwriting inside was neat, precise. It was a logbook. The first entry was dated 50 years ago. It detailed the experiences of a solo radio operator, a man named Elias. He was stationed here, alone, manning this tower. His job was to relay messages for a secret military project. As I read, a horrifying story unfolded. He wrote about his profound loneliness, about the crushing silence of the Antarctic winter. He started talking to the radio, personifying it. Then, his entries grew strange. He mentioned hearing a voice from the static, whispering to him in the dead of night. The voice, he wrote, told him things. It knew his fears, his hopes. It knew his name. My eyes scanned the page, my hand trembling. He wrote that the voice promised him he would never be alone again. It promised he would become part of the signal, a permanent watchman of the airwaves, forever connected. The final entry was short, almost ecstatic. Tonight, I join the broadcast. Tonight, I become the voice. My name is Elias. I will wait. My blood turned to ice. Elias. My name. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a summons. I looked from the journal to the blinking green light on the transmitter. The machine hummed with a low, almost organic energy. It felt alive. I suddenly understood. This wasn't a prank or a foreign enemy. It was a ghost. A ghost in the machine. An echo of a lonely man trapped in the static for half a century, calling out his own name, searching for a successor. And he had found one. The high-frequency detector in my pocket began to scream, its needle redlining. The air in the hut grew thick, heavy. A crackle erupted from the transmitter's speaker. And the voice, the calm, measured voice from my nightmares, filled a tiny space. But this time, it only said 2 words, Elias Vance. It wasn't a question. It was a welcome. I scrambled backwards, kicking the door open and stumbling out into the snow, gasping for air. I didn't stop running. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, collapsing in sight of the station's warm, welcoming lights. When they pulled me inside, I was rambling, incoherent, trying to explain about the tower, the journal, the voice. They thought the isolation had finally broken me, that I was suffering from hypoxia and hallucinations. They sedated me and put me in the medbay. I woke up hours later. The storm had finally broken. The sky outside was a brilliant, clear blue. The main comms panel was alive with chatter. A rescue team was on its way. Everyone was celebrating, laughing with relief, but I felt no relief. I just felt a cold, creeping dread. That night, as the entire station slept soundly for the first time in weeks, I lay awake in my bunk. My watch ticked past. To 16 a.m. I held my breath. 2:17. The station remained silent. The radio in the common room was off. There was no crackle, no hiss, no voice. A wave of relief washed over me. It was over. The connection was broken. The ghost was gone. Then I heard it. It wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from inside my own head. A calm, measured voice, whispering directly into my thoughts. Doktora Ristorn and Dr. Lina Petrova. It began its nightly roll call, and I knew, with a certainty that froze my soul, how it was going to end. The broadcast hadn't stopped. It had just changed its frequency. There's a place on the map, a tiny speck in the vast blue, officially labeled uninhabited. No lights pierce its nights, no docks greet the waves, and no buildings mar its landscape. It's a blank slate, a forgotten piece of the world, or so they say. But this island holds a secret, one whispered by the tide every single morning. Imagine being the first to arrive after a storm. The air is clean. The world feels brand new. You step onto the shore, and that's when you see them. Footprints. Not yours. Not from any animal, you know. They're perfect, human-like footprints, arranged in a neat line, leading from the water's edge, across the damp sand, and straight towards the dense, dark line of trees that guards the island's interior. Every single day, it's the same story. The morning tide recedes, and there they are, as if someone just walked out of the ocean and into the forest. Oh, no boat is ever seen. No person is ever spotted. Sailors who've anchored offshore, watching with powerful binoculars, swear the beach is empty at dawn. Yet, the footprints appear. A silent, daily miracle. The strangest part, Tehu's stop, right at the edge of the jungle, as if the person who made them simply vanished into the tree line, or perhaps the trees themselves. There are never any tracks leading back out. It's a one-way journey, repeated endlessly. Locals from nearby inhabited islands have legends. Of course, they speak of sea spirits, ancient guardians, or lost souls eternally tied to this patch of land. They call it the island of the morning walker. Over the years, a few brave or foolish souls have tried to solve the mystery. They've camped on the beach, hoping to catch the phantom walker in the act. They set up cameras, motion sensors, you name it, but the results are always maddeningly the same. One group reported their camera batteries, fully charged, were completely drained by morning. Another found their equipment meticulously disassembled and laid out on the sand, as if by an invisible, curious child. One particularly determined researcher decided to follow the tracks. He radioed his team from a boat just offshore, his voice crackling with excitement. He described the prints up close, noting they seemed to sink deeper into the sand than a normal person's would. He followed them to the tree line. His last transmission was just 3 words. They're not stopping. Then, silence. When the rescue party went ashore, they found his footprints, right alongside the mysterious ones, both leading into the trees and disappearing at the exact same spot. He was never seen again. What force is at play on this island? Is it a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand? A trick of the wind and tides creating a perfect illusion? Or is something truly walking out of the sea each day? The footprints are an invitation, a riddle etched in the sand. They suggest a presence, a life that defies our understanding of what it means to be uninhabited. The island itself seems to breathe. Those who have spent time near it talk about a strange feeling, not of menace, but of profound loneliness, a sense that something is waiting. The air is thick with unspoken stories, and the rustling leaves sound like whispers. You can almost feel eyes on you from the dark green canopy, watching, observing, but never revealing. Could it be a creature that lives both in the sea and on the land, one that science has yet to discover? Or maybe the island is a gateway, a place where another dimension briefly touches our own, and the footprints are the only evidence of that fleeting contact. Every morning, the evidence is laid bare for the world to see, and every day it's washed away by the afternoon tide, resetting the stage for the next performance. The map can say what it wants. It can call the island empty, a void on the chart, but the sand tells a different story. It tells of a persistent, silent visitor who refuses to be forgotten, an inhabitant that needs no buildings, no boats, no recognition from the outside world, an inhabitant whose very existence is a daily, baffling question. The island that refused to be empty continues its vigil, leaving its mark for the morning sun, a ghostly signature on the edge of the world. And as long as the tides ebb and flow, the morning walker will continue its lonely pilgrimage, forever walking into the heart of the island, and into the heart of one of the world's most beautiful and unsettling mysteries. What do you think is creating these footprints? Let me know your theories down in the comments. It's a fascinating puzzle to think about. Thanks for watching, and if you love diving into the unexplained like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. See you next time. The desert heat beats down on everything, a relentless, shimmering haze that makes the asphalt soft and the air thick. Out here, miles from anywhere, civilization is just a memory. Then, you see it. A single, flickering neon sign cutting through the twilight. Vacancy. It's the Desert Bloom Motel, a lonely outpost that looks like it's been forgotten by time. You're tired, dusty, and the thought of a real bed is the only thing keeping you going. Pulling into the gravel lot, you can't help but feel a strange sense of unease. The place is quiet, too quiet. The air is still, heavy with the scent of sagebrush and something else. Something metallic and old. The lobby is a time capsule, faded floral wallpaper, a dusty taxidermy coyote, and a brass bell on the front desk that hasn't been rung in years. Behind the counter, a man with eyes as ancient as the desert itself slides a guest book toward you. It's a thick, leather-bound volume, its pages yellowed and brittle. As you reach for a pen, your eyes fall upon the first page, where a single rule is written in elegant, looping script. It says, "Welcome, weary traveler. Our home is your home, with but one simple request. For your own peace of mind, please, do not look into any mirror on the property between the hours of 3 o'clock and 3:10 a.m. You chuckle to yourself. What a strange, quirky rule. Probably just some local folklore to spook the tourists. You sign your name, grab the heavy brass key, and head to your room. Room 7. The door creaks open to reveal a space that's clean but Spartan. A sturdy bed, a wooden nightstand, and a large, ornate mirror hanging on the wall. Opposite the bed, its frame is carved with intricate, unfamiliar patterns. You toss your bag on the floor and collapse onto the bed. The long drive has exhausted you. You close your eyes, intending to rest for just a moment, but the deep, dreamless sleep of the truly tired claims you instantly. Later, you wake with a start. The room is pitch black, the only light a sliver of moonbeam cutting through the cheap curtains. A sudden, inexplicable thirst grips you. Your mouth is dry as dust. You fumble for the lamp on the nightstand, but it won't turn on. A power outage, maybe. You sit up, your heart pounding a little faster now. You glance at your phone. The screen glows brightly, illuminating the time. 3:03 a.m. A chill, unrelated to the desert night, snakes down your spine. The rule from the guest book flashes in your mind. Do not look into the mirror between 3 o'clock and 3:10 a.m. It's just a silly superstition, you tell yourself. A ghost story for a lonely motel. But now, in the oppressive darkness, it doesn't feel so silly. The mirror on the opposite wall seems to absorb the darkness, a void within the room. You try to look away, to focus on anything else, but your eyes are drawn back to it. Curiosity is a powerful, dangerous thing. What could possibly happen? It's just a mirror, a piece of silvered glass. You tell yourself you'll just take a quick peek, one little look, and then you'll go back to sleep and laugh about it in the morning. Slowly, carefully, you swing your legs over the side of the bed. The floorboards are cold against your bare feet. You take a tentative step forward, then another. The silence in the room is absolute, broken only by the frantic drumming of your own heart. As you get closer, you can just make out your own silhouette in the glass, a dark shape against the deeper dark. You lean in, squinting, trying to see your face. At first, nothing happens. It's just you, a faint, shadowy reflection. You almost laugh in relief. See, nothing to be afraid of. But then, something shifts. The reflection. It's not quite right. It's still you, but the expression is wrong. While you stare in wide-eyed curiosity, the face in the mirror is smiling. It's a slow, predatory grin that doesn't reach the eyes. The eyes of your reflection are wide, filled with a terror you don't yet feel. But you're starting to. You try to step back, but your feet are frozen to the floor. You're paralyzed, a prisoner in your own body, forced to watch. The reflection raises its hand, but your own hand remains limp at your side. It waves, a slow, mocking gesture. Then it presses its palm flat against the glass from the other side. A cold dread, colder than any desert night, floods you. This isn't a reflection. It's something else, something wearing your face. The thing in the mirror keeps smiling that awful, knowing smile. Its eyes, your eyes, are locked on you. It begins to trace a pattern on the inside of the glass with its finger, a shape you can't quite make out. It leans closer, its breath fogging the surface, its expression changing from terrifying glee to something that looks like concentration, as if it's trying to push through the glass. You can feel a pressure in your mind, a strange pulling sensation, like a string being wound tighter and tighter. You want to scream, to run, to break the mirror, but you can't move. You can only watch as the thing that looks like you continues its silent, horrifying work. The clock on your phone ticks past 3:09 a.m. 1 minute left. The pressure in your head is unbearable. Your vision starts to blur at the edges. The room seems to tilt and warp around the central, horrifying image in the mirror. The figure on the other side stops tracing and places both hands against the glass, pushing. You see the surface of the mirror ripple, like water. It's coming through. You close your eyes, a single, silent tear of pure terror tracing a path down your cheek. You brace for the end, for the cold touch of that thing as it breaks free. And then, nothing. The pressure vanishes. The suffocating presence in the room recedes. Slowly, hesitantly, you open your eyes. The room is still dark. Your body is your own again. You scramble back onto the bed, pulling the covers up to your chin, your body shaking uncontrollably. You don't dare look at the mirror again. You just sit there, staring at the door, until the first hint of dawn paints the sky in shades of gray and pink. As soon as the sun is fully up, you throw on your clothes, grab your bag, and practically run from the room. You don't look back. In the lobby, the old man is exactly where you left him, a knowing, almost pitying look in his ancient eyes. You toss the key on the counter and turn to leave, but something makes you stop. The guest book. It's open to the page you signed, but now, there's something new. Below the first rule, another one has been added. It reads, "If you see yourself, do not make a sound." The handwriting is messy, frantic, a stark contrast to the elegant script of the first rule. With a jolt of ice-cold fear, you realize the handwriting is unmistakably your own. You stumble out of the Desert Bloom Motel and into the blinding sunlight, leaving a piece of yourself behind in the darkness of room 7. And as you drive away, you can't shake the feeling that somewhere, back in that mirror, a version of you is waiting patiently for the next guest to check in. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy tales of unexplained phenomena and things that go bump in the night, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You never know what you might see when you look in the mirror. Stay curious and stay safe. Have you ever stood on a frozen lake? The creaks, the groans, it's a sound that gets under your skin. But what if the sounds weren't from the ice shifting? What if they were from something else? Welcome to Lake Serenity, a place that holds a chilling secret beneath its icy surface. Every winter, the town of Northwood celebrates the Freeze Festival on Lake Serenity. It's a tradition as old as the town itself. Locals and tourists alike skate, fish, and build bonfires on the thick, seemingly solid ice. They say it's the safest frozen lake in the state, frozen solid from shore to shore. But the old-timers, they tell a different story. They speak in hushed tones about the sounds, a slow, rhythmic knocking that echoes from the deep, dark water below. It started decades ago. The first recorded incident was in the winter of 1953. A group of teenagers, out for a late-night skate, were the first to hear it. They described it as a dull thud, like someone tapping on a thick wooden door. Thump, thump, Thump. It was steady, patient. They thought it was a prank at first. Maybe a friend hiding under the pier. But the sound wasn't coming from the edge. It was coming from the very center of the lake, where the water is deepest. Terrified, they scrambled back to shore. No one believed them, of course. Kids with overactive imaginations, the town sheriff said. But the next year, it happened again, and the year after that. It was always the same. Always at night, when the laughter and music of the festival had faded, leaving only the whistling wind in the vast, silent expanse of ice. The sound became a local legend, a ghost story told around campfires. The knocker of Lake Serenity, Te Calle d'Italiano. Most people laughed it off. The ice is just settling, they'd say. It's the pressure. The temperature changes. There's a rational explanation for everything. But a young journalist named Clara didn't buy it. She arrived in Northwood in the winter of 2008, drawn by the whispers of the knocking. She was a skeptic, armed with a recorder and a determination to debunk the myth. She spent her days in the town's dusty archives, poring over old newspapers and geological surveys. That's when she found the first anomaly, according to every scientific record she could find. Dating back to the late 1800s, Lake Serenity had never, not once, frozen completely solid. The reports were consistent. Due to a unique geothermal vent at the lake's deepest point, there was always a pocket of liquid water, a warm heart in the icy body. The ice on top was thick. Yes, easily 3 feet in most places, more than enough to support the festival. But it was a lid, not a solid block. The lake had never been truly frozen. This discovery sent a shiver down Clara's spine. If the lake wasn't solid, then the knocking couldn't be pressure shifts. The sound was traveling through water before it had hit the ice. That night, Clara went out onto the lake alone. The air was frigid, the kind of cold that steals your breath. The moon cast long, eerie shadows across the snow-dusted ice. She set up her sensitive audio equipment near the center, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. For hours, there was nothing but silence. She was about to pack it in, disappointed and half-relieved. When it started, thump, thump, thump. It was clearer than she ever imagined. Not a dull thud, but a sharp, distinct rap. It wasn't random. It had a cadence, a deliberate pattern. It sounded like a code. It sounded intelligent. It was slow, patient, and utterly terrifying. It was the sound of something waiting. Clara scrambled back to a motel room, the recording clutched in her trembling hands. She spent the next few days analyzing the audio, cross-referencing it with Morse code, with every known form of rhythmic communication. Nothing. It was a language she didn't understand. Her investigation led her to a local historian, an old man named Arthur, who lived in a cabin on the lake's edge. Arthur listened to her story, his weathered face grim. He wasn't surprised. He told her the knocking was older than the town itself. The indigenous tribes who lived here long before the settlers had legends about the lake. They never went on the ice. They called the lake the eye that never sleeps and spoke of a guardian, or a prisoner trapped in the warm water below. They said it was ancient, and that it was hungry. They believed the knocking was a call, a summons. Arthur showed Clara his own collection of records, diaries from early settlers, journals from lumberjacks, letters from fishermen. All of them mentioned the sound. In 1888, a logger wrote about losing his partner, who went to investigate the tapping on the devil's drum and was never seen again. All they found was a perfectly circular hole in the ice, as if something had punched through from below. In 1924, a family's ice fishing shack disappeared overnight from the center of the lake. No traces, no wreckage, just gone. The pattern was chilling. Every few decades, someone would go missing on the ice. It was always written off as an accident. People fall through thin spots, they said. The lake is treacherous. But it was never thin spots. The disappearances always happened over the deepest, supposedly safest, part of the lake, right where the knocking was heard. Clara realized the terrifying truth. The town's belief that the lake was frozen solid was a dangerous lie, a comforting fable that had been passed down for generations. The people of Northwood weren't celebrating on solid ground. They were dancing on a cage, and every winter, the thing inside would test the bars. What is it? A prehistoric creature that adapted to the geothermal vent. An entity trapped by some long-forgotten event. No one knows for sure. The knocking isn't a plea for help. It's a test. Every tap is a question. Are you thick enough this year? Are you strong enough to hold me? For over a century, the ice has held, but the knocking has become more frequent, more insistent. The locals said the frozen lake was thick enough to walk on. They were right. What they didn't realize was that over the years of hearing that slow, patient knocking, the thing beneath the ice had learned. It learned how thick the ice was. It learned the weight of the crowds during the festival. It learned when the ice was at its weakest, right at the end of the season. It had simply learned to wait. The last entry in Clara's journal is dated the final night of the Freeze Festival that year. She wrote that she was going back out one last time. She had to know. She had to see. Her equipment, her journal, and her abandoned car were found by the shore the next morning. Of Clara, there was no sign, only a set of footprints leading out to the middle of the lake, where they abruptly stopped. Nearby, the ice was fractured, a dark, gaping hole steaming in the morning light. The knocking has since stopped. Maybe it finally got out, or maybe it's just not hungry anymore, waiting for the next time someone gets curious enough to listen to the voices under the ice. So if you ever find yourself on a frozen lake at night, and you hear a sound from below, don't dismiss it. Don't try to explain it away. Just run, because whatever is down there has had a very, very long time to learn how to be patient. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.